They're the hardest working counselors, you know.
I have you on speaker, but you still need to speak up.
All right, we'll make sure that everybody speaks into their microphone. We're just about to get started. Bear with us.
So I'm gonna talk to them, well, how do we get it?
All right, Mayor, you've got a quorum.
All right, let me exit this other meeting. All right, okay. All right. All right, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this regular meeting of the no, it's not a regular meeting. It's a special meeting of the,
It's a special meeting?
well, I guess, yeah.
It's a monthly meeting.
Oh, it's a meeting.
And then we're not having one in December, right?
I don't, yeah, not yet, not
Oh,
yet.
oh, that's the other board. I see. I don't think we're gonna have a meeting in December here.
Welcome all to this meeting of the South Central Regional Transit District. Today is November 29th, 2023. It is 1:35 PM. This session is now in order. If I can have, okay, where am I? The agenda looks, I read the agenda. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Well, do we have the pledge? Or am I missing a page?
It was a printer that went wrong, right?
1, 2, okay. Well, let's rise and do the pledge and then.
Yeah, let's do the pledge.
All right. We haven't adopted it yet, so.
That's right.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, if I can also have a roll call of the members present.
Javier Perea,
Present.
Nora Barraza, absent. Meiji Powie,
Present.
present. Yvonne Flores,
Present.
Manuel Sanchez, absent. Diana Murillo, absent. Robert Martinez, absent. You have a quorum.
Hold on. It's just three? We just need three?
Oh, you know what? He's not here. I'm just counting. I was thinking he was gonna be here any minute, or he's gonna be on the line. He may not be on the line because he's having trouble with the WebEx.
So I don't have a quorum yet. No.
Yeah, I didn't think so. We need to have 5, correct?
I've
So the Pledge of Allegiance didn't happen?
well, nothing has happened so far.
Maybe Veronica had a crystal ball.
Oh, there's Nora.
Yay.
There's Nora.
So do you have a quorum now?
Yeah. So I guess,
No, it's not working. No, WebEx is just not working. I can give you a number to call. Oh, you're in?
Yo me hubiera fijado si no hubieras dicho nada. Pero hombre,
Stuff at home.
nobody notices.
Oh, thank God. I'm like, oh my God, should I participate via phone?
People online now, so they must be working for some people.
Oh, there's a lot of people.
Okay. All right, you bet. Bye. All right. We'll have to do that again.
all right, let's get this started again. Well, we started, but we thought we had a quorum, but now I can know. All right. Do I have to do everything again?
I'm gonna change this.
Why do you need another roll call?
Because se fue Fabián.
All right, let's get started with the, let's do roll call again.
Javier Perea,
Present?
Nora Barraza,
Here,
Meiji Powie,
Present.
Yvonne Flores,
Present.
Manuel Sanchez,
Present.
Diana Murillo. Absent, Robert Martinez. Absent, you do have a quorum.
All right,
Now
there we go. All right. Again, just for the record, I do have 1:39 PM. It's November 29, 2023. All right. The first item on the agenda is the consent agenda. Items of the consent agenda are considered to be routine and will be enacted in one motion unless a counselor, or excuse me, a board member requests an item be discussed and voted on separately. At this moment, I want to entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion, we approve the consent agenda.
I have a motion on the floor to approve the consent agenda. Is there a second?
Second by Flores.
Motion has been seconded. Let me see. These are okay. Well, let me have a roll call vote of the matter.
Javier Perea,
Yes.
Nora Barraza,
Yes.
Meiji Powie,
Yes.
Yvonne Flores,
Yes.
Manuel Sanchez.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Motion carries unanimously. The consent agenda has been approved. Item number 1, Sierra County Bus Route Presentation.
Go. All right, thank you very much. Again, for the record, David Armijo, Executive Director, South Central Regional Transit District. This is kind of picking up. This has been a kind of an ongoing presentation to try to keep the board apprised of where we are with this project. So today I'll try to put it into context as to what we need to do in order to go forward. As an overview, I'm going to present a couple of maps today, actually. So I want to show what the Sierra County bus route map would look like. I'll also show where the bus stops are that we've identified. Talk a little bit about the meetings that are still tentatively be scheduled among the participants in the Sierra County area, which includes Elephant Butte, Sierra County itself, as well as Williamsburg. I'll talk a little bit about the cost of service and what the next steps would be. So this is the map, and like I said, the next map I'll show will be the actual stops. So in general, one of the things we did when we were looking at the 10-year plan, which actually identified this project in fiscal year 22 or 23, was to look at initiating this project once funds were available, vehicles and so on. The vehicles are now in, we have a vehicle available, and the funds have been secured. I'm going to get into a little more detail on that. The concept was to bring the bus through the Sierra County area from the lake and Elephant Butte, TRC, and Williamsburg, and then as we go down the road, it would actually connect in either Hatch or Garfield. In fact, you can see Garfield on the map. And so the idea there is then all the trips would then go into Las Cruces via the green route, the Hatch. And what that would do is it would actually reduce the cost of the overall service because it would reduce that and leverage it with the other route. They'd feed each other. And then it would also allow the bus to turn back and to provide some local movement within the Sierra County area. So the idea is to run that thing several trips a day. And although we anticipate there will not be a significant amount of ridership in the early going, but it would help advertise the route if you see more buses running around. In here, you can see on the left-hand side, it lists the various bus stops. I had my staff go out last spring, so this has actually been several months. We identified potential locations where the stops could be, and then in the above map, you can see the route as it comes back in a little bigger area of the, over there, all the way from the top by the lake, then coming down all the way down to Williamsburg. We're fortunate Williamsburg already actually has a bus shelter. But we would look at, there are some actual benches in the field already, so we tap into some of those with bus stops that we would put in, and then we would look at other opportunities where we could put maybe another shelter or maybe some more benches, sort of build up the program with some additional passenger amenities. But that's just a perspective list. Obviously, we expect as we start talking to the various city governments and their planning staff, I'm sure they're going to make recommendations to us on other stops we might want to consider. This gives you another view, we've got a lot of maps in here, of what that looks like as you zoom in and you see where we are. Now, I actually went back in my file last night when I was doing this presentation, and I realized I actually started sending letters off to the various city governments since April 23rd of last year. So I've had some conversations with, because I've had to go out there and make presentations, and I'd made presentations going back 2-3 years ago with Sharon Thomas. We actually were talking to the various city governments about this project. Generally speaking, a lot of the governments would say, well, we don't really want to participate. And the letters I sent out in September actually were asking these city governments to add this onto their agenda so I could go before the full board, mayor and council or trustees, and actually ask them not only do you support us doing this project, but would you consider rejoining the district? So I kind of stuck it out there. Now, since the city manager and the county managers didn't respond, my next step is to go to the mayor on each one of those and just get this agendized. But you can get a pretty good sense that there's quite a bit of distance up there to do the route, to do that and then come down. And that's why it makes the most sense to connect the two routes together. The green and Hatch route is already out there on the road going in. And the advantage of the Hatch route, and I'll certainly be looking for some feedback from Trustee Powie, is that it comes into town, it goes directly to the community college on the big Doña Community College on the west side, or near the East Mesa, and then it comes into the various hospitals, the mall, and then New Mexico State University. So it really hits some of the major places that have come out of the discussion of where we want to go to this end. Cost of the service.
Can I,
Yes, let me go back. Go ahead, please.
why, okay, a couple of comments. You know, in the beginning, all the communities paid in and got nothing, which is why most of them are telling you they don't want to participate now because they feel like they were taken advantage of. You know, they all paid at one time, and now none of them look except Williamsburg. And I think if, number one, if they are told that they are not going to have to pay for at least a year while you try and get this up and running, they may be more willing to participate and listen to you.
Yeah. The problem with that, if I may say so, Ms. Powey, that would be illegal. It's not in the intergovernmental agreement that was determined by the state of New Mexico. So the intergovernmental agreement was developed in 2003. We joined as an organization in 2006. We're one of 4 regional governments. We could go to the legislature and ask for a change, but the agreement for the intergovernmental agreement is for all districts. And so it's very clear in the stipulation, as it says in our own bylaws, that you participate and you have fees. And there's nothing in there that guarantees you whether or not you get service for that. So if we want to rewrite the laws and go back to the state legislature and have it changed, we could consider doing that. It would add time to this process. So that's not an option.
Then I have, unless, the other issue is, why haven't you looked at a local route? Or up to the,
Okay, so thank you for bringing that up. I have looked at a local route. I presented that when I went out almost 3 years ago. I was in Williamsburg, Elephant Butte, and Sierra County. I presented that as an option in all 3. And every business meeting I was in, they all said, well, yes, of course we want you to pick up locally, but we're really interested in getting to Las Cruces. We're interested in going to the universities, the community college, and or the hospitals. That was the main connection. They want to come into Las Cruces. So the challenge then is to how can we do both? And so what I try to outline is we can have certainly plenty of bus stops locally, make a local route, run the service down into Hatch and let the green route take people into Las Cruces, and then the bus will go back to provide local service in Sierra County.
but what I hear you saying is that unless they rejoin and start paying dues again, it's not going to happen.
No, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is I'm not going to we can't legally guarantee that. What I am saying, and the reason it's going to be for the board, and I'll discuss that in a minute, talk about costs, is does the board want to proceed with maybe perhaps a pilot program for 1 or 2 years, run the bus service out there with the current member that we have, Williamsburg, with the hope that the others would rejoin, but it's not connected to that. I've secured funding from the state of New Mexico to pick up half the cost of operations. The other half would come from the district, either through our membership fees or other fees coming in from other grants or in fact the Doña County agreement that we have. And other revenues like fare box, advertising, and so on.
I mean, I hear you, but I also understand what the communities are saying.
But would it be simple or easy to justify, well, this is how much you paid in membership dues over the last, well, while you were here, and obviously the service, I mean, this is going to be a subsidized service, I guess our current setup.
Okay, so let's get to brass tacks. So if we're looking at what the cost of service is, it's about $100,000 a year, plus or minus. So the state government's given us half of that, 50 grand. The other 50 grand has to come from other services. If we calculated all the fees that were coming from Sierra County from the old days on an annual basis, Elephant Butte and Williamsburg, you get about $3,000 to $4,000. So about 3 to 4% of the total would be coming from the members. So the members aren't actually going to be paying for this service. The members are going to pay a portion of it, and then the lion's share is going to come from the state of New Mexico with a 50-50 operation or 80-20 on the administrative costs. So the lion's share of that's going to have to come from other services and other fees from the transit district in order to make this service work.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Chairman, this is Commissioner Sanchez.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
I just had a question, and I know you're talking different funding sources, Ms. Armijo. I'm just curious, is there any way that the state Veterans Department might be willing to also pitch in with some funding if we were to connect to the veterans facility in the area there in Sierra County?
Right. Thank you very much. That's a very good idea. We have looked at possibility of doing that. I actually attended a meeting 2 years ago in Albuquerque talking about veterans programs and services. I even spoke at that meeting and with other folks. And point of fact, we have had direct conversations with the veterans over the last about 3 years. And so we would in fact do something along those lines, and whether or not they could fund us, that would be interesting. The funding is very unusual in the state of New Mexico when it comes to veterans funds, because you have funding coming from the federal government that's providing some services with vehicles and so on. Then you have funding coming from the state to do some of these things. So it's an option, and we can pursue it more specifically. Either way, we should make that stop and try to advertise that we would be doing that, because there are a number of veterans right now that are dependent on volunteers to get them up and down this corridor.
That's true. That is a fact.
Madam Mayor?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. So many things are going through my mind right now regarding, I know that I've been a strong advocate for providing the service up to Sierra County, and I know that they had not paid their dues in a while. But I think, Meiji, we have to look at this is that we're finally at a point that we are able, the RTD is able to provide that service, or starting to look at providing that service. And you and I have been strong advocates for providing the service. Unfortunately, it's taken a while to get to this point, just like everything else, just building up that ridership. And I think Sierra County, as is the case here in Doña County, has really stepped up to the plate and provided the majority of the funding for local municipalities to the RTD. And I really feel that Sierra County needs to step up to the plate and say, you know, this is something we want for our county, because look at how long it took us to even get service to Hatch. And so it's a work in progress. And sadly, you know, we're just barely now at that point. But I feel like when I leave that we've accomplished that, or halfway there anyway, that at least we're seeing a plan in place at this point. But I really feel that maybe Mr. Armijo needs to sit down with Sierra County, and maybe the elected officials from Williamsburg, from TRC and Elephant Butte need to meet with the county and just stress the importance of providing this service. And, you know, unfortunately, it's taken us a while to get to this point, but I think overall, financially, we're getting stable enough that we can start to provide that, and the funds are starting to come in. And I think they need to look at the whole picture as a whole, versus like, we didn't get the service when we were participating, and so therefore, you know, they don't want to participate. I think they need to bypass that and look at the whole picture, that we are there to service the constituents and the members that need that service. That's my 2 cents worth.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. So let me finish by going to the cost. So as I laid out moments ago, so the cost is somewhat split with perhaps, and it's probably more than 50% is coming from the New Mexico DOT grant. And then the rest would be coming from other sources within our budget. I have informed the board that we have been able to draw money from the U.S. government in the last 10 days. So we were able to get the $365,000 that we were owed. We have money in the bank. Now, you're supposed to say something. Sorry? We have money in the bank. Yes. And we have more money coming. So the good news is we have resources, we have vehicles, we have drivers. Now we would have to have other drivers because of the area, so that would require recruitment, and obviously installing stops and signs. So there's more work to be done. But we are in a position that we could at least initiate the service. At this point, and I want to make sure I reiterate, we want to have the dialogue with all the government agencies up north. It's not incumbent upon whether we choose to do this or not, with or without their participation. That would be a decision from this board. I can't make that decision. However, I can commit that we've secured funds to do this. I say that, and I'm careful to say that, because I sent another email this morning. I know Adam was on the email. Even though we picked up two grants that would help us with this, those grants, I signed the agreements back in September, October, they're still not programmed. So until the money shows up in Black Cat, where Adam can submit an invoice, the funds are available as of October 1st. So we're already 2 months into it, but we cannot submit when we submit the next billing, which we're about to do for November. We can't ask for any money because there's nothing in the system. It's just a paper shuffle right now. I expect that'll be resolved in the coming days, probably in the next 30 days. This is just a bureaucratic system. Everybody's got a lot. We're one of 23 agencies. We're not the only one the state is dealing with. So that's the least of our problems. I think the bigger issue here is trying to get a sense is this is something that we really want to do. I need to get some direction from the board to make arrangements, because it will take time. And I have to, again, not just have a conversation with the elected officials in these jurisdictions. I have to go back and reopen discussions with city staff, in which those city staff members I talked to 3 years ago are no longer there. And one of those examples was, I know that Sierra County, surprisingly, had offered us a place to park our vehicles if we wanted to do that. So I have to talk through that. I know I had discussions also even with Williamsburg, because they have the shelter and they have other locations. Where would we want to do that? Well, we learned when we first started doing the Hatch route, it was better to have Hatch employees or SRTD employees living in Hatch. We start from there. So if we're going to start the route in Sierra County, we prefer to start there than to start from Hatch and then do the deadhead out. We definitely don't want to deadhead all the way from Las Cruces. That'd be 75 miles. So, you know, there are some logistics in here that still have to be worked out, and some agreements with the organizations. For example, when we were in Hatch, we started by parking our vehicles at the PD, with the police department. So we had, it was secure and so on. They're very gracious, very helpful to us. So we expect that we'll get the same cooperation, I think, from the members. I would certainly believe that that would be the case. So it's still going to take us a little bit of time to get this thing worked out. We just need to get a sense of this is where we want to go.
And I think that's the right direction. I mean, I understand, you know, we weren't at this point several years ago, so it's a harder sell. Whereas now, okay, we have that opportunity there, and to say no to money, it's, you know, that it's
Right.
Mr.
So-
Chair,
Madam Counselor.
I didn't mean
Go
to.
ahead. No, go ahead.
Thank you. I did mean to want to speak. But I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No, you're good. You're good.
Okay. Thank you so much, David, Mr. Armijo. I'm a little concerned about, or perhaps didn't quite understand, about the money that isn't there yet, but it may be there. The thing where the money came in, where but it's not really there.
But we have money from the federal government
Yeah,
that's,
but
that's
there's-
in our
but
account. We're talking about money from the state of New Mexico that hasn't been deposited into a program called Black Cat. So
Okay.
once it's in there, then Adam can submit invoices for reimbursement. The state usually reimburses us within a couple of weeks.
But that money is definitely coming in. It's just a question of when.
They've signed it, we've signed contracts. So the money is obligated by the state of New Mexico to the transit district.
Can
Yes,
I
but-
kind of interject just to try to explain how that works?
Yes, please.
And the reason I'm saying that is because we have the same, our trustees sometimes don't understand how it works. So for example, sometimes if you get a grant, we have to front the money. Say we have a bill, we purchase something and we receive the bill. Once we receive the bill and pay it, then we ask for the reimbursement.
Right.
It's not that the bank is, it's not the money, they don't, just because we got it, and I'm going to come up with figures here. Say we got a $100,000 grant. They're not going to deposit that $100 into your bank. The only way it's going to be deposited is
Is once
once
you
you
spend it.
submit an invoice for services that have been rendered, then we submit the reimbursement, then the check comes in
Okay.
increments. Because our trustees have the same.
the
They
same.
don't understand, yeah.
Correct.
Well, now I understand. I get a gold star.
We should have started with that.
Híjole. So David, then, yeah, because my only concern is, paying for something and then not having the money to do it. But we do have the money to front the money, right?
That's correct.
Initially. And then once we spend it, then we get the money from New Mexico.
That's correct, but one of
Okay.
the
So-
experiences that Mr. Shea and I have received over the last 2 years is we want to make sure we have the money. Because we went through a very challenging time this last year, and we don't want to go through that again. The other thing too is, remember, there's also logistics. I have staff, they will be doing the signs, but we have to talk to the cities in the right of way and get those approvals. That can take a few weeks to get all that done. We might decide to do a shelter. We do have a couple of shelters. I mean, we might, order those and see where that goes. We'd have to work with local city government. So I anticipate, even if we get the green light, that we're probably 60 to 90 days out before this could become a reality. So, and quite frankly, if we're going to do it, I'd rather do it in the spring. So I'm thinking March, April would be a good window.
Mr. Chair,
Madam Councilor?
thank you. So David, so you're thinking of spring, but that's only if they're willing to go on board, literally and figuratively.
Well, like, we should define if they're willing. Let me reiterate what we've been saying, I've been saying.
Okay.
It's up to you all as the governance to advise me. I'm here to advise you the technical parts, so you're the policy. So the reality is, we've secured the funds to do this. We believe we have the local money and the grant money to pay for the service, to pay for the signs, the poles, install, hire the staff, and go run this thing. We would like to have the other city governments rejoin the district and become members. It's not a requirement that they do so.
So we could have service without the municipalities, without them agreeing and participating financially?
Yeah. That's not unusual, especially in a rural state like New Mexico.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you right
So-
now, Albuquerque's got services through Los Lunas and other places where the city of Albuquerque is not paying for that, but it's being picked up by the regional government. Rio Metro, I think, is
Oh,
doing that.
I see. So it's,
Yep, and then when Facebook moved out there, that increased services dramatically, and they had to pick that up. And it's ironic, I know the person doing it, I was actually helping in the design of some of that aspect. I feel privileged that I was asked for that, but, the district decided to go ahead and do it in support of what the region needed, because I don't think anyone wants to lose Facebook and all those jobs, right? But Albuquerque didn't pay for it.
so David, if they don't pitch in, if they don't participate financially, we can still carry out the service, provide the service?
We can, but now taking us back to a bigger picture, and I know we have board members on the phone as well. There are other things I know board members are going to want. We're starting already to get ready for our budget year next year. One of the programs I have programmed with other grants is for us to expand our passenger amenities, and I'm wanting to actually bring on a planner, grants person to help me with some of that and work with the staff and the team. So that takes time to do those things, and that's something that's really needed for the organization to go forward, and that's going to have its own costs. So, we're always dealing with competing costs. So if we make the commitment to Sierra County, that just means we're going to have a little less resources elsewhere to leverage and what we want to do. And there's other programs we're talking about doing, maybe mobility. I'm actually I'm looking at Mayor Bodaza, because I'm actually thinking a lot about how we do our copper run and how that route could be converted into a mobility type solution where instead of having a little fixed route bus every so often, you actually might have a phone call. And we might run smaller vehicles and do as needed direction, which would integrate further into Mesilla than what we are doing now. So that's a discussion for this board at another time. I'm researching that as we go. In fact, I'm on a national committee for that. I just had a call on that yesterday. So, we have a bright future. There's a lot of other things we want to do, but this has been on hold, and now's the time to have this discussion.
Mr. Chair, This is Commissioner Sanchez.
Commissioner?
I think, just speaking for the constituents in my district of Doña County, I know this is something they've been asking for, particularly because the one thing I continue to hear is the veteran services in there in Tier C. And so I know, like I said, I know there's support even in Doña County for this, but I do agree. While I know in principle, I know we're saying it's slightly different, but I do agree with Trustee Powie, where I think I would support starting to look at plans where even if the local governments are not supporting it, I still think it's a benefit to try out as a pilot project, as Mr. Armijo has mentioned. And as that grows and people utilize it, approach the local governments and have them and show them the data that says, hey, here's what we're seeing. Please we want you to participate with the transit district and have that conversation. Obviously, that's a lot easier, as I think is the way I understand Trustee Powie saying, is when we're there and we can present actual data where the people can see it. It's a different conversation than them having been part of the district and not having seen any return on their investment. So I think I would support at least exploring a pilot project to move and move forward with it to Sierra County.
Madam Mayor?
My only comment is, I think we need to give it a try. Most definitely, it's something that I know we've been working on for quite a while, and Mr. Armijo and his team are ready to move forward on it, and I think we need to support that and see how the first year goes. And we have to work collaboratively with the municipalities because of the bus stops, the shelters, the benches, whatever it's going to take to make this a successful route. It is going to take collaboration and support from the municipalities. So it's important that they buy into it, but I most definitely support going forward at least for a year, and you'll come back and visit it again and see. Hopefully by then we can get Sierra County, at least Sierra County, to support it and to see the benefits of it. And if you can collaborate also with the Veterans Hospital over there and get their buy-in, I think would be worthwhile.
Counselor?
This is Sally. There is a veteran clinic in Las Cruces as well, correct?
Yes.
Here it's been that is a veterans clinic in Tier C. But you have one in Las Cruces, correct?
Yeah, I believe it's on Del Rey.
Yes.
Yeah, I think
Yes.
so.
We do have,
And sometimes I know clients from Sierra County do go down to that clinic.
So it's an important connection. Counselor Flores?
I think we should go ahead based on your presentation. And I don't think we're going to run a financial risk if we try it out for about a year. And it might have a positive effect in terms of the municipalities and saying, well, we are benefiting from this, we want to keep it. So I think we should do it. I think we owe it to the people. Thank you, Mr.
And if
Chair.
I can make one last comment, and I'm kind of directing this to you, Trustee Powie. One of the conversations I have had with some of the individuals over the last year and a half, actually I was asked to help the folks at Elephant Butte. They're very interested in having a summer shuttle. They really don't want the people moving those big pieces of equipment that they stage over there by the lake, and they don't have anything else to get into town. So one of the things that this route could do is it could be modified in the summer months, where maybe it has limited trips coming back into Hatch, but as a more frequent local route. And I've had conversations with the staff. I guarantee you Elephant Butte extremely interested in that project, if we could do that.
Yeah, I know you're right. And I think by presenting it that the first year you're doing a trial and you want participation that number one, you'll get better coverage in our local newspaper, who tends to be sometimes inflammatory. But if people know that we're going to do this as a trial for a year and try and get participation, I think, without saying, here's your bill first, it'll make it.
But I think there's also merit in asking to join, because they become part of the decision-making process along the way.
True, and I think Williamsburg will stay on board knowing that you're going forward. But can they have a member without paying? That would be the question. Can they participate in the board if their community has not paid?
Well, let me offer an idea, because I spend too much time on the bylaws and the rules. This board has the opportunity at any given time to create an ad hoc committee of either members of the board or non-members of the board. It's really based on our advisory board scenario. And so one possibility would be for this board to consider extending a request to those members to join the ad hoc committee, in which they would then have insight and input into the location of stops, schedule, and so on. They could do that without having to be a member. They could be a provisional member, so to speak. That's something, I'm sorry I didn't have an opportunity to lay that out for you, but that is available in the bylaws.
Well, I think let's go with the current strategy that you're proposing, and then see, let's gauge where they're at.
Okay.
And then once we do that, then we can formulate a plan moving forward. Because I think right now we're debating speculation, and we can come up with so many different scenarios. But I think, hey, maybe you ask the question and they say, oh, well, we want to join now that this service is going to become, and maybe we're debating something that
There you go.
we have to debate. So,
Sure.
so maybe if we go down that route.
All right, well,
Yep.
that concludes my presentation. Thank you very much for the input. Very helpful.
Thank you.
Oh, so wait a minute. Oh, excuse me, Mr. Chair. Excuse me, David. So that concludes your presentation. Do we have to vote on this?
There's no action.
There's no action
No,
on it.
this is-
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Armijo.
Thank you.
No problem. All right. Moving on to item number 2, first quarter budget amendment number 1.
Good afternoon, members of the board. Adam Shea, Finance Officer for South Central Regional Transit District. The following is a proposed budget adjustment for the first quarter, and it is based on actuals, funding received versus a lot of it has to do with capital that's going into the actually next year and all. So to start off with, I would like to explain as far as the expenditures. Right now, I'm asking for an additional $79,264.80 towards health and life insurance. That's the employee benefit. You'll notice on the presentation, it's only on that particular line item. That section in orange is just highlighted as the individual items for the total of the employee benefits. What this is it's two aspects. Is number one, there was some kind of laws or something that was processed in 23, and we were billed an additional amount from the employer or government services division, where we get our employee benefits from. What they did is they tacked on an additional charge to our fiscal year 23 expenditures for the employee benefits. What this item does, the $79,264, half of that is that assessment, employer-only assessment, that is carried over into this fiscal year because that's when it was paid. So that $79,000, again, half of it has to do with that employer assessment. The other half is an increase in the employee benefits that we were notified from them a month ago, I think it was. And there has been a lot of going back and forth between the agency, the state agencies and the Government Services Division, but it's an additional amount, and it's surprising that it's done on mid-year. But that 79,000 does incorporate that additional amount as well as that expenditure carryover from fiscal year '23.
So, Mayor, do you want to?
No, go ahead.
So we, through the New Mexico Municipal League as well, as a cities, we've also received this additional billing.
You did too.
So,
I'm
so
not
we've all
surprised.
gotten this additional billing. We've been advised to hold off on the payment,
Really?
because I think the league is going to be suing the state. I can't recall the exact details on it, but, I mean, I'm not sure.
I think, if I may add,
Go ahead,
Mr.
go ahead.
Chair, Mayor Perea is absolutely correct. And so the New Mexico Municipal League, the self-insurers is saying they cannot make us pay money that we were not aware of, and all of a sudden they're billing us.
Right.
And so the self-insurer is saying that, no, we should not be paying it, and the possibility that it's going to end up in litigation is very true, and we have been advised not to pay it. And if we did get an invoice from the state, to let the self-insurers know that you did receive an invoice. And they're the ones that are taking care of all the correspondence and back and forth that's
Oh.
going on with that. So,
Okay.
but I am also aware of the increase of all the benefits that are going up. They did let us know about a month ago that insurance benefits were going up pretty significantly. And so I would hold off. I mean, I understand about doing the amendment for the increase we're expecting, but I would hold off in paying that invoice until you've contacted the self-insurers to get direction from them as to what's going on with that.
Yeah, I'm of the same sentiment. I'm comfortable making the adjustment on here, but I would hold off until maybe further guidance, we get further guidance. Because if at the end we don't have to pay it, yeah. Yeah.
Is the money available?
Mr. Chair?
Madam Counselor?
Yes, thank you. You made a face when, was that a,
The reason is it's been paid.
Okay.
oh, well, minor detail.
Considering it is an invoice that's dated June 30th.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
the
no,
reason we
that's-
paid
So
it,
part of that lawsuit should include reimbursement to the entities.
I did not know there was something like
Yeah.
that going on.
Yeah.
I didn't see anything in the communications that, of the agencies that were on that list that received the notification.
Yeah, well, this has been strictly through the municipal league. This communication has been through strictly the municipal league. And had they not informed us, we would have paid it too. Yeah.
They did not inform us.
Are we under the self-insurers?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
And that's what we had heard is on some entities, they were threatening. And so AJ said, just refer it all to them and they would deal with it through the attorneys. And so, did you say you only paid half of it?
We paid those invoices,
Okay,
yeah.
So, Mr. Chair, if I may, my advice would be just contact self-insurers. Is it Clinton?
Well, he is a contact on there, but it was somebody else. I can't think off
Something
the top of my head who it was.
Beasley? Anyway, I would contact, I know he's been out on paternity leave, but I would contact him, I think he's back, and just make sure that you all are still a part of that negotiations and that you are able to recoup your money.
I will definitely contact him. Thank you very much. I did not know about that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay. If we can move on, the revenue portion, it's an increase that we are asking of $432,720.68. What this is includes the $300,000 that we had earmarked under capital expenditures. Thank you. The $300,000 first item listed there, of the Doña County. We had that earmarked under capital. It's just, we're moving it back under operating at this point until such time as we are expending capital resources. The rest are increases or decreases based on the actuals of what we are receiving for the fiscal year. Much of it has to do with decreases, especially with the operating, the rural and the inner city. There's the increase for the 216,000 of 5310. We didn't have those figures outlined, but we do have that amount in there to increase that item. Then the second portion under the 5307 is just the adjustment to the fiscal year 22 funds that we're receiving from Region 6 FTA. And then the smaller amount of 8,026.66, that's the miscellaneous items. Year to date, up to this point, it's interest accrued from our money markets as well as auto insurance claims that we received claim checks for. So in this, we're asking for an additional $432,720.68 for operating. And lastly is the capital. Before you go on. Yes.
I just turned it on. It's on now. It's on. Thank you. I just talk loudly. Anyway, so before you move on, so you keep in mind revenues, expenditures. So we've accepted in the last 2 months, and that's what we're trying to bring the budget up to date. We received money in October for 5310 funds operating. That was some of the costs we were talking about a moment ago that could become available for Sierra County. That's in two allotments, each of 100,000 or so, so it's like 200,000 plus.
Something like that, yes.
Then we also received money for the 5307 urbanized funds from Mesilla Valley, which is the Las Cruces area. That added about another 57,000, so there's 257. And then the 197 you're talking about here, that's from the MPO out of El Paso.
Right.
That gave us money, and it's also coincidentally in the 5310, and that's for some vehicles. And those we're looking at as more like vans. So we're actually bringing in more money. Now, he's moving money around in here. We talked about the county money, but so at the end of the day, the bottom line is we have more revenues than expenses. Your expenses are about 2.7 million, and your revenues are now about 3.1. Doesn't mean we're gonna go spend it all. It just means we have more money. Well, we've done a little of that already. Okay, I'm sorry. I just
Thank
wanted,
you. No,
before you
thank-
focus on the capital. And the capital is still a challenge. We'll talk about that. Thank you. Adam, go ahead.
Agreed. Thank you, sir. Appreciate the clarification. Are there any additional questions regarding the revenue adjustment I'm requesting? Okay. Finally is the capital adjustment I'm requesting. It's actually a decrease of $549,967.10. Pardon me. And these are actual amounts that we have incurred or will incur for the fiscal year. Much, like I said, the $300,000 we're moving from capital for the Doña County over to operating. Yes, Meiji? Ms. Howie?
Trustee Powie, did you have a question?
Sorry, I'm trying to tell my cat to get off my computer.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
It was her cat. She was trying to get her cat off her computer.
Thank you. Anyway, much of it has to do with decreases, but there are finite changes that will bring us right into balances with the actuals. That concludes all my comments regarding the first quarter adjustment, or in this quarterly adjustment.
Okay. At this moment, I would entertain a motion to approve the first quarter budget amendment.
Mr. Chair, I make that motion.
I have a motion on the floor made by Mayor Barras. Is there a second?
Second by Flores.
The motion has been seconded by Councilor Flores. Any discussion on this item? Seeing and hearing none, let me have a roll call vote on the matter, please.
Javier Perea,
Yes.
Nora Barraza,
Yes.
Meiji Powie,
Yes.
Yvonne Flores,
Yes.
Manuel Sanchez.
Yeah.
Yes.
Motion passes.
And thank you very much.
Hold on, yeah. The fare free policy is
That's next.
that an action item?
No.
No, okay.
No, actually, it is.
It is.
There is a resolution for that. I'm sorry.
Do we want to go over that real quick? Can you
Yes.
hold on? Can you hold on just a moment? Okay.
So I'll do it from here. All right, thank you. So this item, again, David Armijo, Executive Director. This item was a discussion item in previous board meetings going back to early this fall. And at the time, there was a discussion, it was kind of given to the staff as something that if it could be done, we might want to consider it. And so I'm bringing that back now because I know that the city of Las Cruces Roadrunner has been providing this as a service for this past year, although I'm not sure where they're going to go in their budget, whether that continues into the following year. So I wanted to bring this up for discussion. Clearly, our revenues have changed a bit, so we could at least consider this now where we couldn't make the commitment previously. What I outlined in my agenda item on page 7 of 9, I did indicate that typically our revenue is about $5,000 a month. Actually, our revenue and our ridership, which I'm going to present here in a minute at the Executive Director, has grown to over 100,000 rides a year. Our ridership was up about 20% last year. In the first 2 months of the year, we're up at another 20%, which also comes out of Farebox. So now we're seeing Farebox rise to about $6,000 a month. So we're projected about $60,000 for this year's revenue, but we're actually likely to hit $70,000. This is significant because if you remember the early days, we're lucky if we did $1,000 a month. Now we're doing, well, we were excited at $1,000 a week. Now we're at $1,500 a week and up. So, you know, those are all good things. So that revenue, of course, is important to us because the Farebox revenue is one of the few local funds. And so you can use that with grant money to match up to 50% or 80-20. And so really the Farebox numbers will offer a lot more than just the 60 or 70,000 we might have. So with that said, though, it is possible that we could draw, you know, estimating closer to 30,000 or more for the second half of the year. We could do a fair policy initiative where from January through June 30th in this fiscal year, we could assume those funds to be shifted and we would do a free fare and then market that. The real question is why would we do that? What's our intent? I think sometimes we get tracked on, you know, doing the things that we do. The reality is we do provide services to an awful lot of people that, especially it's throughout the county. It could be the North County, it could be the South County, whatever, where a lot of people, we are the only transportation they have. I know, having spent a lot of time in the southern part of the state, of the county and the state here, that a lot of people have one car in the family. When our ridership was first starting, most of the time it was a one-way trip because the time of day was such that they would get picked up. So we were taking people somewhere in the morning, but not picking them up in the afternoon. That's changed. We're taking people and bringing them back. But we also have people making multiple trips. And there's many people I've met over time that, some of which actually live in Mexico, Juarez, and they come across and they start taking buses and they go all the way to Las Cruces and they actually have doctor's appointments and then it's a whole day thing and they go back. I met one gentleman who actually comes across once a month and he goes to Alamogordo. And he has a friend there and he stays the night because it takes him the entire day to get to Alamogordo, have a doctor's appointment in the afternoon, stay over, and then he makes his way back the next day. So it's a 2-day event. So we do a lot of things for a lot of people. In some cases, we do it because that's all people can afford. And so ultimately what I'm trying to say is that for some folks, having a free fare, or as they call it in Las Cruces, a zone-free fare or zero-based fare would be very helpful to a lot of people. But again, this is a policy issue, and I'm bringing it to the board to make this decision. If you'd like us to try this out for the 6 months, we have the resources to support that.
Discussion?
Okay, Mr. Chair. when we offer the fare-free service, and I'm speaking on this just because, I don't know if I should say this. So my sister retired from driving a bus here in the city of Las Cruces. And when they had the free fare, they pick up a different clientele on the buses. And so my question to you is, does that happen with the RTD?
Madam Mayor, yes. Not as frequent as Las Cruces. When I was first working here almost 8 years ago, I was the number 2 person to open and come to work in the morning, a little bit after 6 a.m. because I was crazy. And I know that, I think her name is Loretta, that's the customer service, I think she's still there. She was happy that I came in because there was nobody else there. And there was no security at the Move It Center in downtown. There were times when I thought, and I was working there regularly, that do they really need the security? Well, the answer is yes. There's a lot of issues that go on today in Las Cruces that certainly weren't there when I grew up in Las Cruces. We have the benefit that we are more rural and we have a lot of the same clientele, certainly Las Cruces has. And so we don't have many situations where we have that. We have had a couple of individuals who are either drug addicts or alcoholics, and they can get unruly. It's a challenge that we know that in the years ahead, we will end up having to increase security on the buses and in the field. And we hope to be able to do more training with the sheriff's department so that they're more familiar with our buses. So that's the downside of this. But I think we're talking less than 1/100th of 1%. And our drivers are pretty good at handling these individuals, and we generally know who they are. So if we do this, will we have some issues? Yes, we will. But I think they'll be modest.
Okay, thank you for being honest on that. And that's always been a concern, is the safety of our employees by offering the service. And the other is, I agree with you that seeing that increase on the fares, on the paying side of it is very beneficial to the RTD, especially since where we started to where we are now, you know, every $1,000 definitely helps the RTD in providing that additional funding for grants or the match is on that. And so I want to say, yes, I'm in favor of it, but a part of me says maybe for a couple of months and not the 6 months, because I mean, we're finally getting to a point that we're stable. I'm not worried every month about our financial situation. And you know, we're trying to provide service now to Sierra County. And, but, you know, whatever my colleagues here would like to do, I mean, I will support that. But those are my 2 concerns that, you know, could waive my decision, I guess. So, but I'd like to hear from my other colleagues here.
Thank Sally, what is your fee structure now? What do you charge now?
Ms. Bauer, we've been charging the same fares since we started here 7 years ago. We match the fares that Roadrunner provides. So the base fare is $1 for adults, and then it's 50 cents for discounts for students, people with disabilities, and seniors. We don't have one based on income. I have been researching that. There are opportunities around the country, but very, very few places do that. I know that another program that has been considered elsewhere in the country is to provide free fares in the summer, because those are the times of the year that we have less ridership and you have more availability. And so that's one I've also thought about as a potential initiative as well.
Mr. Chair?
Counselor?
Yeah, I was going to ask something else, but I think that the free ridership is important, and as far as, I mean, it hasn't been reported to council either officially or, you know, people coming to the podium and complaining about this, that, and the other. There haven't been any incidents that I'm aware of since we had that free ridership. Now, you know, there may be some stories out there, but officially, we haven't heard anything like that. I think that, and then before I forget, Los Angeles RTD, or it's called something else now. But anyway, they offer free rides. No, it's the big blue bus, Santa Monica. They have free rides for seniors and for students. And I think the Los Angeles Transit also, the city now has that too. I mean, I think that Santa Monica puts a lot of big cities to shame. But in terms of ridership and free ridership, you know, it's really definitely a matter of policy. But I think that there might be some concern in terms of safety and security, and there might be liability issues. All that being said, I really think we owe it to people to have free buses. On my way in to this meeting, I drive by, I take, well, anyway, I go by, what is it, Casa de Peregrinos, and everybody, the bus stop there heading back into town was just crowded with people with their bags of food and all that. And, you know, and I thought, well, it's really great that they have that transportation and carrying those heavy bags of groceries. So I'm for having it. Is there a risk, as Mayor Barraza brought up? Absolutely. Can it be overcome? Possibly. And we should probably have some kind of security, safety people on the buses anyway. I mean, just because, you know, because there is, you know, I don't know what the law is on that, but it seems to me there could be a liability issue for the provider of public transportation. And, you know, do you know, David, if there's anything like that on the books anywhere where public transportation has an obligation to offer a safe environment?
The only provision that we're aware of is that with our new grants, the urban grants of 5307, they do require us to invest 1% of the federal money into security, which is not a lot of money. So typically the 1% goes to things like security gates, doors, lighting, something to help out with the shelters. I would venture to say as we get larger, and I'm actually surprised Roadrunner, as large as it is, they do have security on a contract basis, but only for that transit center. So we're really we're limited to whatever's available to the cities or the county sheriff's department to provide services for us. So I think over time, that's not going to work. I think we're going to have to step up. Well, I wouldn't suggest we would provide our own. I'm already thinking as we, you know, move forward on our facility in Sunland Park that, you know, we have a contract there, and we do have contract staff that come out when there's issues. But over time, as that grows, it would make sense for us to actually enter an agreement with Sunland Park. And then maybe further north, we enter an agreement to the city of Las Cruces and or the county sheriff. And so, I mean, to the extent that we actually would have some officers under that we'd be paying for. So if we had an AM, PM shift, there'd be somebody assigned. I don't know. I've had contractors like the Los Angeles Police Department in LA. I've had multiple contracts, but a much larger service. So I think that's something that's going to take some time. And you know what? I'd actually be very interested in some of the cities, even the smaller cities, to get some insights because they've had to deal with this issue.
Mr. Chair, just a quick. I think sometimes we that sit on the board don't realize what staff has to go through on a day-to-day basis, and the staff that are driving those buses. I think it would benefit all of us to maybe spend a couple of days riding the buses to see what they really are actually going through. And I know in the city, I've heard some horror stories that actually happen. Why it's not coming public, I don't know. But like I said, sometimes we live in this world right here. We're not in the trenches with staff and know what really is going on when it's, there's situations going on that we really should consider what's going on and be more interaction, or David, as the supervisor, share with the board what really is going on and what the staff is having to deal with in the buses. And that security is a big thing for me. And I would hate for someone to get injured on my shift anyway. So, thank you.
You bet.
Mr. Chairman?
Commissioner?
So I would, like, I think I've mentioned this before in some of our previous meetings, that I believe that, well, I think for what Mr. Armijo is proposing, I fully support. I think on the county perspective, if we wanted to continue to implement this year round, the county would be willing to try to work with our partners on it, with SCRTD, to figure out how we can fund it 100%, because I think it's important that when we look at Doña County, which includes Roadrunner, it would mean to have fare free service across the county and even in Las Cruces, so that way someone can just get on a bus and get to where they need to go. I think we'll see several things. I think one, we'll see more people utilizing public service or the public transit. Two is the fact that we won't have to worry about drivers having to carry any type of cash or having to worry about having a transaction. They just have to pick up at their stops, which reduces the responsibilities that they have and probably even save some time. So, I think it's important that, I think as we work, hopefully with I think the service of, or the mission of SCRTD and what we're trying to do as leaders in our various jurisdictions, I think it'd be an important piece of that. And I think as to address Mayor Barraza's concerns, and I fully agree that we want to ensure the safety of the employees of SCRTD. But I think it regardless of it's fair or not, this is something you see across anything, right? The more people that are interacting with the service, with whatever it may be, you increase the opportunity that, yes, there might be an encounter that would be, an unfavorable encounter of some kind. And so I think as we move forward and if this is something we do approve, we just have to be cognizant of that and working with, David, you and your staff, making sure that whatever you feel are the concerns that need to be addressed, then you can bring it to the board so that we can understand it. We can try to understand what solutions you may have, and if there's a way that we as a board can support that to ensure the safety of our people. So, I think this is overall, I think having a fare free service will mean a lot more for the residents of the county. And I think, like I said, I can only speak for myself, but I do believe there would be support from Doña County to support an ongoing fare free system in Doña County. So, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any other comments? I guess up to me now, no? I obviously, you tackle a lot of social issues by providing this service free of charge, right? Obviously. but I'm also, the balance in my head is, okay, if we're still in the need for expansion and growth, then those revenues do have to be replaced at one point, or how do we make up for that? Or do we slow down our expansions to be able to address the issues today? So that is the big policy, I think, debate in my head. But I think if we can continue to show growth, and if this policy does help, bring in additional numbers, I think that speaks better for the SCRTD, and obviously we get to help those who may not necessarily have the resources that sometimes we tend to take for granted. So that's just the balance in my head and policy decision, and the policy decision that I have to make today. But I think my heart tells me that I should vote yes, and I think that's where I'm going to go.
Mr. Chair, can I just make one recommendation?
Sure.
Because I really need to leave, but have we ever thought of polling our staff? They're the ones that are in the trenches, and asking them what their feeling is, on security, safety, how secure they feel driving the buses. Ask them about the free fare. How does that affect their routes? In the future, I most definitely would like to get their input. I think it's important to hear from them, because we can sit here and make all these decisions, but do we really know what our drivers are going through and our staff? Because they're the ones that are out in the trenches and know their clientele.
Good idea.
Okay, thank you.
All right, seeing and hearing, no, or is there more debate?
Yeah, well, based on what Nora, I would just pose the question now to you, Mr. Armijo. Have there been any reports of, unfavorable reports from your staff, from the staff, from the drivers,
Well, yes, thank you. So 2 parts. The first part is I have 2 young ladies right here who are doing the financial accounting. So they're processing the money, and they're spending hours in a given week as we couple money from our northern operations that operates out of Hatch here in Cruces. So we collect them on buses. There's 2 or 3 buses we have to collect several times a week. Then we have buses in Anthony. We collect those at it. And then we have buses in Sunland Park. So we're actually shuttling the money using our supervisor or maintenance staff or whomever to get the money to them. And we follow security items that make sure that there's enough people, the money's secure, we're watching cameras, whatever, to make sure the money's okay. So there's a cost to collect the money, and then there's a process of that. I even worry about us emptying out these vaults, which I have done myself when I was needed at the very beginning, because, when you do anything over a period of time, people are watching you from a distance. So I worry about the security of them getting the money and the security in a locked bag and then getting it to where we're going to count it. So that's, so we're doing the whole from birth to grave. That's a part of the issue. The second part is even the supervisory staff. I wish Loretta Gallegos was here. I think she might be online. She might be able to communicate to this. I'm sure that she would say that she has some concerns too with the free fares, because yes, the drivers have to handle situations, and those do occur. They're just not that frequent. They're manageable, but we manage a lot of things in the service area. That's just one more thing.
so that's a plus for a free fare.
The big plus for the free fare is it's going to allow people to board the buses much more quickly. We don't have to account for the revenue, so our staff is now doing other jobs. That's probably the big thing. We did see about a 15% bump in ridership the last time we did this. It does level itself off, but we never fell below that. Then we started brought the fares back. It took us about 60 days to get back to normal. A little bit off.
So we can carry it without the fares. Carry the
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So let me get to the bottom line. That's what he's looking for. You have as many people who think this is a great idea. They probably have more of them than those that don't like the idea, because the fact of the matter is we're using a lot of resources in order to get the money to the bank. And some risk, yes.
Well, then let me entertain a motion to approve.
So moved by Flores.
I have a motion on the floor to approve. Is there a second?
Second, Sanchez.
Motion has been seconded by Commissioner Sanchez. Any further discussion? Seeing and hearing none, let me have a roll call vote on the matter, please.
Javier Perea,
Aye.
Nora Barraza,
Yes.
Meiji Powie,
Yes.
Yvonne Flores,
Yes.
Manuel Sanchez.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Motion carries unanimously. Item number 3 has been approved.
Mr. Chair, just for the record, I do need to leave at this moment.
Madam Mayor, I'm going to take some executive privilege here. I'm not sure if we're going to have a meeting in December,
27th?
but I do want to say, if this is your last meeting, that I do appreciate your service to the SCRTD, and I appreciate your friendship over the last 10 years, 11 years. It's an honor and a privilege to be able to serve in this capacity with you. I'm very thankful for your guidance. Oh, my God. And thank you very much for your support. I know we haven't agreed on everything all the time, but I think you're a clear demonstration of how we can, be in these positions and disagree and still move forward. So thank you for everything you've done for your community, for the area, and for me as well.
Thank you so much. I'm speechless.
Nora, this is, thank you for sticking up for Sierra County, and thank you for what you've done for all of your constituents. They're going to miss you.
Thank you, Meiji. Thank you so much.
Mr. Chairman, I want to echo your sentiments and that of Trustee Powie, Mayor Raza. It's been an honor to serve on this board. I know I'll have another opportunity to let you for us during our MPO meeting, but it's been an honor to serve with you through the almost 5 years that I've been on the commission to understand, from the fiscal responsibility to, serving our constituents. It's, I really have learned from you and seeing from the different experiences that we've had on our various boards. So thank you for that opportunity, and I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you so much,
May I?
Commissioner Sanchez.
Okay, now I'm going to make you cry. I just want to say that it's really been wonderful working with you here for the last 6 years now, and getting to know you, and I just feel like I'm part of your family because I just adore Annette, your niece, and I think, and what's really, really interesting, and I just, when I see you, I think it was Annette, maybe you, who told me that that whole area where the Fountain Theater is and La Posta, that was actually your home.
My grandmother's home.
Your grandmother's home, and your siblings were born in,
My sister was
yeah,
born
uh-huh.
at La Po, yeah. one of the
not in,
areas
it wasn't La Posta yet. Maybe the parrots were already there, but just to know that you have that history, and just a lovely family, and I just, it's been an honor, and I look forward to our friendship continuing, and thank you for your service,
Thank you.
your wonderful service. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Well, as you know, it's not very often I'm speechless. But it has definitely been an honor and a privilege to be a part of the RTD family. I've been here since the beginning, and the accomplishments that we have gained over the years, and we're at the point that we are at, that I am leaving. I'm very proud to say that I have been a part of the RTD. The friendships that I have made over the years are just, will always hold a special place in my heart. And, you know, if you're ever in Mesilla, please give me a call. I should be available. My goal
You're gonna
is.
have more time on your hands.
I should have more time on my hands. Our goal, my husband and mine, is to go see our grandkids and our children more often, which both live out of state. And at this point, my husband is having some health issues that we need to get addressed, and we go through to Arizona quite often. But the knowledge that I have gained is invaluable. I mean, I have learned so much, and the friendships, I just can't even count. And it's just not a friendly friendship. It's just like a family friendship that I have gained over the years. You all are a part of my life. Javier, since he was so young, becoming a very young mayor. And, you know, I knew I had to go out there and support him, and I did. And I will continue to support you, Javier, in whatever endeavors you cross, going to Europe, or if you end up moving to Europe, which I'm sure is something you would like to do. Councilor Flores, the fun we've had in New York, most definitely. That was an adventure. Meiji, with our fight to get service to Sierra County, and I'm happy to leave on a good note that there is hope that we are getting service out there. And David, you have been such a wonderful asset to the RTD, and where you have taken the RTD and the staff. You all are just awesome. Adam, Becky out there. You will always hold a very special place in my heart. Manny, thank you so much also. You've been a good player for the county. I'd like the youth coming forward, and you all are our future. And so I leave my future in your hands. So thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you so much.
It'll be my last meeting if we don't have one in December.
So is God, not Nora.
Pardon?
And your husband.
That's good too. Something about your husband.
My husband?
What was that?
No, I just said my pleasure with you and your husband.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah. It's challenging, but we too will overcome this. So thank you. Thank you all so very much.
You're free to go, Mayor.
I'm free to go. Yes.
All right, you have to top that, David.
I was gonna say, I have to follow that. We have some really good news in this presentation. This is a carryover from last month we didn't present, but thank you so much. And thank you, Mayor Barraza, for all that you've done for all of us. You've been a godsend, and you stepped up many times when somebody else was out and helped guide us through some very challenging times. So thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
your wisdom
It's been a pleasure.
and patience.
We have not always agreed, but it's all about having respect for each other.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, thank you.
All right, we're down on item number 4, Executive Director's Report.
Good. All right. Thank you so much. This made it easy for me because this is the report I didn't present last month. So, so my overview, I'm going to talk just really 4 items. I want to talk a little bit about our ridership and the success story for the last year. We actually eclipsed the 100,000 mark. I'm sure 5-6 years ago, no one ever thought we would reach this. We did 18,000 our first full reporting year, which would have been back in '97. That was like 6 years ago. We did get our FTA awarded grant. That's the money we've been talking about. And then we have some approvals, which I'll go into detail on what's called the NEPA, the National Environmental Policy Act, and the Sunland Park Facility concurrence, which allows us now to proceed to acquisition of the property. And then I'm going to go briefly through the 4-year NTD performance, which unfortunately I've actually updated since I did this, but I didn't have a chance to update the slides. So the first one you can see, and it actually breaks down by ridership, 101,756,000 trips we generated last year, including from left to right at the bottom, over 11,848 trips on the red route, over 6,074 rides on the purple, 7,330 rides on turquoise, 59,460 rides on the yellow route. And of course, that route runs 6 days a week and a longer service day than the other routes. The green route actually carried 6,064, and who would have thought 3 years ago that we'd be doing that? So that has really been a great success story. That route grew very, very, very quickly and continues. 457 and blue, and that's really the thing. Those are the special events that we get from time to time. We throw them in that route. And then the silver has done 8,991 route. And I throw this to Mayor Padilla. That was the route that used to run 1 day a week when the city of El Paso was running that service. So we turned that into a 6 day a week route. It's really done very well. And then the copper route is growing. It's still something that's going to need some work. We're at 1532. And I think it's the route, and quite frankly, I think it will do better with free service because the routes in Las Cruces are free, and the people in Las Cruces don't want to pay for a route that's not free. So we'll see where that goes in the months ahead. So 101,000. So it was a great year. Very exciting when you hit a plateau. Now the next one will take a little longer to get to. I can say in the last 2 months of last year, we carried just over 15,000 rides. In the first 2 months of our fiscal year, which is the NTD report I'm going to show in a minute, is October and November, and those rides are over 19,300 rides. So we're up 4,000 rides year over year from where we were a year ago. After nearly 18 months, we finally received our federal grant in September 1st, and it took another couple of months before the funds were received. We received those about 10 days ago. That makes a huge difference for us. So we now have that. We have another grant Adam was able to submit for fiscal year 23. So that's going through the review process, and those have funds, again, because it's so late. That's from a year ago. There's funds in there that we would draw hopefully before June 30th of this year that we can realize, and that would also help us because those funds have already been expended. So getting those monies back is a way of putting more money into our reserve, so we could actually grow the reserve even more. Probably the most important aspect was we did get some assistance from Senator Heinrich's office in discussions with the FDA because our grants were behind. We were complaining about the $364,000 check out of $696,000. This represents 2 grants for $5.6 million. That's been tied up. 5.6 million, yes, 5.6 million. We received, and this one has its own story. I've thought about doing a write-up to the Secretary of Transportation or Joe Biden. He might not be happy with me. So, you know, our illustrious president gets the Infrastructure Act approval of funds 2 years ago, November 2021. That turns into a grant opportunity with the infrastructure for electric cars, electric buses, and everything else. They release the notification for the funds in early February, first part of March. Applications start up in April. We get 2 bites at the apple. We can apply for what's called the NOLO bus funds for just electric equipment, or another funding source where we could get the facility and maybe additional funds for either a hybrid bus or electric buses. I applied for both. They also reserved, thank you, Mr. President, about 20% of the money for rural. They did not get enough rural applications. So our application went, yep, we got 3.1 million, and then we got 2.5 million. All that had to be done by June 30th of 2022. In order to make that happen, we tried to hire a consultant. We got federal funds from the state to help us put that together, because virtually nobody in the state, except for I think North SCRTD, and now not even Rio Metro doesn't have one. I think Albuquerque has a plan. We're like the second or third to have an actual plan in place. That then required me to create a team with the electric company, and the MPO helped us out from here, Michael McAdams, who's worked with us since. And then we had a contractor with SBLB, Kurt, and then the engineers from the electric company, which we really needed. So at the end of the day, long and short of the story, we had June 30th deadline. And we tried to hire a contractor to put this together back in April. And they basically told me on a conference call, there's not enough time, Mr. Armijo. You really shouldn't apply for any of these grants. Just see where you are a year from now. We didn't hire them. So with the team I had in place, we were doing fine until Kurt got sick and had to go into the hospital, and I lost him in the last 2-3 weeks. And so the other day, I drafted the report, which is what they always say, as a doctor, don't, or practice, you don't practice. I wrote it, I submitted it, but I started my career as a planner. I can be a pretty good planner. And I figured all I can do is say no. Submitted it, got 2 grants, 5.6 million. The rest is history. Now, to get the money spent, fast forward, we get the money programmed, got the money awarded in August of last year, 2022. So November 2021, August 2022, grants awarded by Congress or through the FTA, USDOT, whatever. And then we get to this point, which is we now have to do an environmental clearance, NEPA. I know, Mayor, you've had some exciting experiences in Sunland Park. We're in Sunland Park trying to do the same thing. And then we have to do Sunland Park facility concurrence. So those are 2 separate parts. We got the environmental clearance. We hired a local contractor to help us put that together. Zia Engineering here in town, they did a fabulous job, worked very quickly. One of the projects at the very end of the NEPA process was we had to have a biological clearance because of the Rio Grande, because there's water nearby. But we can't, but our consultant handled it.
There's some
Got the
puddles out
form
there.
done. So anyway, get all that done, and so here we are now. This has now been approved. We have now reached the point where we've gotten clearance on the concurrence, so now we're agreed. We then had to work with our lawyer, Mr. Cadillo's office, because under the agreement, we have to submit, a lawyer has to submit the offer to potential buyer. Unfortunately, Mr. Cadillo, as I listed here, has decided he's no longer going to be focusing on that. So we hired another company that is now coming on board that's going to do the work, and it ironically is a company out of Albuquerque, which Raul Cadillo used to work for. So he actually got his training from them, so they know him very well. So we're ready to go. We'll be making the offer before the end of this week, and then we'll see where the next steps go. And I think and that's might be a reason for a December board meeting, by the way. We'll see how that goes. We can talk about that at the end of this meeting. So we've made tremendous progress on our grants, and so we are now ready to do that. The grant, though, is still being programmed by the state of New Mexico with the regional office, but they are now before the last step in the process of the Department of Labor. So I got those letters about just before Thanksgiving. I expect that that'll clear in December. So the funds will be available, if not by the first of the month of January, shortly thereafter. So I wanted to present real brief. The NTD does a number of measurements and whatnot. I had that as a presentation last month. I didn't bring it back because I didn't want this to go too long. I may just roll through these, but I wanted you to see that when we get assessed, there's a number of things that we look at based on our numbers, what our ridership is, how many service hours we do, how many miles we travel, and what our costs are. And so the first one, and this is fiscal year 22, the actual NTD report for 23 has not yet been done. So this shows our ridership from several years ago, and you can see where we were a year ago is 85,000. Now the new chart that I'll do when that report comes due in a couple of months will take us up to 100,000, it'll take us off of this chart. So you can see we've had pretty dynamic ridership, and the only time we've had a slow fall was the pandemic. In annual revenue miles, you can see the numbers have really grown. A lot of that is tied to the additional service we've gotten on the yellow route. When we took that route service over, it jumped our numbers up. In comparison to the 2023, because I'm doing the NTD report now, we're up about 20,000 miles. So we're leveling off, which is why the fact that ridership is still growing, we haven't put more service out there. We're pretty much running the same service. Vehicle revenue hours, you can get a sense. What that really ties to is labor. That's 22,000 hours of actual labor that we would run over a course of 12 months. Service hours, the drivers, mechanics, and so on. Operating expense per revenue hour, you can see our numbers actually have stayed pretty steady. We've actually came down and we're staying pretty low. I think our numbers for 2023 will be just, I think it's $78 an hour. It's actually come down a little bit more. So we're holding pretty well. Now, comparison, I'm going by memory. I was looking at the NTD report for Roadrunner, and I think they're up around $111, $120. And part of that's is their labor cost is higher for what they pay the drivers and some of the other overhead they're getting from the city to manage the service. Operating expenses, you can see our costs are going up. If we take out the capital and some of the other stuff, I think our budget is closer to 2.1 million. So those numbers have grown, but that's still quite extraordinary. I have to do this and go all the way back to 2017. It'd be kind of interesting to see where we were when we first started. Then unlinked trips, that gets you an idea of how many people we carry per hour. So we're roughly at 3.85, almost 4 passengers per hour. So that's for everything. The national standard for a rural transit system is 3.5 to 5. So we're above average right now, but we still have room to improve. And that will improve, I think, when we start doing, more frequency of service or even weekend service. Unlinked trips, pretty much the same thing. This does it by mile. And then overall, this is my last slide. So the 4-year data really shows continuous improvement with the exception of the pandemic, but we rebounded from the pandemic. A lot of that was due to picking up the service down in Sunland Park, but also carrying out more service and the ridership growth that we've seen in Hatch on the Green Route and elsewhere. So we've done very, very well. I hate to project. I'm going to say we'll probably do at least a 10 to 15% bump. I don't know that we can continue at 20%. That'd be extraordinary. So I think we'll come in well over 100,000 next year. Probably 110 will be more of a target. What that should be, I don't know. I do want to bring to the board in the next couple of months a better overview of goals and objectives, continuing to lay out what we had discussed in a 10-year plan, but also narrowing it down. What are the things we're missing? Is it going to be more service hours, more frequency of service? Is it weekend service? We've talked about that recently on some of the routes. I think a lot of people are saying, hey, we need service on Saturday. Maybe not Sunday, but Saturday. Or maybe we add a little more service. We're getting a lot of requests on the last trips. Could we pick up more people or extend it somewhat? And that would be extending our service day. So those are discussions we'll have to have as we look forward to what does that cost if we're going to do those things. So we got to price all that out. And that's it in my presentation.
Any questions?
All right, well, thank you very much. Very good.
All right. Item number 5, any board comments or future agenda items?
Mr. Chairman?
Commissioner?
I just briefly, I think, just want to say that I think I'm excited for, I think all the stuff all the updates we've had today, from the additional funds coming from the El Paso MPO and the federal government to the state, to the electric buses, to the fare free. I think, it's from, like I said, I'm excited because, I think as Mayor Barraza talked about, and I can only speak since 2019, but since, coming from then, how the topics of conversation are so vastly different. And so I'm excited for the future for SCRTD, David and your team. So I know we still have the whole second half of the year, but like I said, just thinking back of these discussions of where we're at versus where we were at, just a few years ago, and seeing the ridership numbers, it's just all very, very encouraging. So just wanted to throw that out there.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I want to make one last comment. Thank you. So I didn't have a chance to put it together, but I will do it at the next meeting, whenever that is. So tomorrow morning, the staff will be installing the bus shelter at Anthony Transfer Station. It's been an effort for 3 years to try to get that thing done. We're finally getting it done. We have finished the first phase of repainting the roof and some of the improvements on the garage in Anthony. We're now going to be doing the doors soon, and so that whole Anthony will be upgraded. It'll look much better. We did the parking lot about 1.5 years ago, so we're continuing to make those kind of upgrades. But I think we'll be doing a case study of the Anthony project of what worked, what didn't work. And so as we look forward to trying to put more passenger amenities in the field, And a lot of those are going to be in the public right of way, specifically in Doña County. So having a relationship identified with the county is going to be very important, and the state. We don't do much in the city because the city kind of has its coverage. So, but, you know, we're always learning from that, but it's kind of exciting to finally get that done. Thank you.
The only thing on my end is if we have any documentation for the legislature of what we're going to be requesting.
Oh, yes.
If we can just forward that, because I know some of us are already having meetings with our legislators.
Yes, thank you. We have that drafted. I will get that out today or tomorrow. Let's say tomorrow. I did have the staff send you something. I didn't have a chance to put that on the agenda for today, but we are working on an initiative to get funding from the state. Now so I sent out a fact sheet to you all. I mentioned that at a previous meeting a couple months back, but I'll have a bigger presentation on that along the lines of what we're going to ask for at our next meeting.
That works. And again, I don't know if we're going to have a meeting next month just yet. But I do want to say thank you to all the staff, David, and board members for this year. It's been, I think, a great year, as we can see through the numbers. And I'm very appreciative of the hard work that you all do. I know you guys are the ones working the front lines there every single day, and we don't necessarily get to see that, but just know that we are very appreciative of your hard work each and every day. And let's continue building this organization to, a much bigger organization where we don't have the struggles that we had early, when we were first starting out. So thank you for taking us to the point that we're in today, and hope you have a very, very good holiday. Enjoy it with the best intentions, and those you hold close most to your heart. So,
Mr. Chair,
yes.
I won't be here for the December 27 meeting. So
Okay.
I don't know.
So there you.
People want to do about that.
Yeah, more than likely. I don't think we've ever met in December, have we?
No, we've done a special meeting.
Yeah.
We've done a special meeting, and that could still happen, but I would argue that because it's Christmas week, I just don't think we'll schedule one.
For December.
We'll do the normal January, but if for any reason there's an emergency that we need to do it, we would certainly go with a special meeting and do it.
Yeah.
And we could probably do it by phone.
So I probably won't be here. But, so January 24 is what you're saying is a normal date?
Yes.
Okay.
So this is Meiji, and I have a question. Whatever happened with the bank, BMO?
Huh?
Was that bank where the money got lost in October?
We got the money.
Okay, that's all.
There you go. Thank you. We got the money. And we're earning interest on it.
There you go. Answer. All right, ladies and gentlemen. If there's no further discussion or any other board comments, I do have 3:19. Without objection, we are adjourned.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Everybody take care.
First thing we did is we paid off that $25,000 loan.